Yeah, they tell you that you should quit trying. You were too small, that you were too young. They tell you the chance is too slim, the world is too big, but you say how come? I'm ready to light a new fire, raise a new flag across a new sea. And if I'm ever the one in your way, then put your head down and run right through me. So why keep settling for so much less? Don't take what's given, just demand what's next. We're looking for an open door. It's something like a shadow in the valley, colossal. Open up your eyes, young one, and be watchful. Behind closed doors, trying to write a new gospel. They are not God, they're not even apostles. I come with the dumb drum banging you breathless. Enemies freeze, left bent and defenseless. Straight for the chest of anybody against us. The more they resist it, the more that they tempt us. So why keep settling for so much less? Don't take what's given, just demand what's next. We're looking for an open. We're looking for an open door. Something we didn't see before. And when we get out of here, we'll take off and never stop running. So why keep settling for so much less? Don't take what's given, just demand what's next. We're looking for an open door, something we didn't see before, somewhere to get out of here. Plot twist that we didn't see coming. We're looking for an open door, something we didn't see before, and when we get out of here, we'll take off and never stop running. No, no, we'll never stop running. No, no, we'll never stop running. When we get that open door. No, no, we'll never stop running. No, no, we'll never stop running. No, no, we'll never stop running. When we get that open door. No, no, we'll never stop running.
Okay. Let's see here. Turn down that music a little bit here. How we doing, y'all? Big day, as basically this is the start of the 2023-24 season. So this is obviously a very, very important day for all of us NBA fans, not just Bulls fans. But very important day as we officially have, in my opinion, this is like the entering into the next season. So we're here. This is it. This is 2023-2024. We are officially back in business with Bulls basketball, and we got a lot to talk about just from this media day, honestly. And I know I haven't been able to kind of catch up with you guys with a bunch of other moves around the NBA. Don't worry, we're going to get to that too. I have a lot of thoughts, honestly, on some of the things, especially from some Bulls perspectives. And yeah, I think we're gonna kind of do a lot of catching up on this stream, and hopefully we do some fun stuff as well. It's going to MC season. Yep, we definitely back. We're back, man. And honestly, I'm just glad that everyone's back, man. So I'm really looking forward to this season and obviously interacting with you guys again. This is obviously what I've been trying to get into for the longest time, and we're doing it for a second year in a row. So I'm really looking forward to covering the Bulls again this year with everybody in this community. So yeah, I'm really happy about it. But we had some quotes that I think are important to look at from Media Day, and I think it's important that we cover a couple of things that are kind of question marks in a sense about this Bulls squad that were, I think, even just more emphasized as question marks from Media Day itself. There are some things that I do think are important. I think that obviously with AK and Billy Donovan, they're not going to reveal much of anything, unfortunately. These are two guys that are just not going to reveal much, but we did get some answers from them. Or more, I should be more specific, we got some lack of answers from them, which I think kind of tells you, what the actual answer is. So we're going to cover that. I want to talk about some things that the players said too. Usually I'm not like too humongous on the players because they kind of say the cliche stuff, but they actually give some really good quotes. So I want to go over that and kind of compare some of what was said to what the actual kind of stats are on this stream, because there's some stats that some people say this and then I'm just like, that the stats don't back that up, or some people actually said something that the stats do back up. So I want to cover it all from Media Day. Football CF Candy, I think you're new here. Vucevic quote about using his playmaking was the best news I heard from the day. Run more. I'm gonna guess that means dribble handoffs and high post, please. Well, I agree with you on the dribble handoffs, if that's what you're saying. High post action, if you're new to this channel, I am here to tell you right now, I am not one of those people that say that we need to use Vucevic in the post. I think Vucevic's playmaking is effective. I think it's actually very important to this squad, but it's not, in my opinion, through the post. If this team is all about trying to play faster, trying to adjust their shot profile, and trying to actually get better shots and more efficient shots, it's not through the post, okay? If we're going to be using Vucevic's playmaking through the post in a sense of like him passing out of the post, then I'd be a little bit more open to it because that doesn't slow down the offense. But if we're just going to be feeding Vucevic the basketball and we're just going to be like, go and either you score it and take 3 crab dribbles, or you're going to try to look to pass it, that doesn't fit into this entire quote. That is what AK basically said on 670 the scores, said today to open his statement for training camp. Like it goes everything against what they said. So I think Vucevic's playmaking is extremely important to this squad, but it has to be through different ways. It's not going to be through him just going down on the block and drawing a double team and throwing it back out. It has to be through the pick and roll, as you said, through the dribble screen handoffs, through making sure that when guys decide to cut hard, he is available to give that quick pass. I want to see a lot more give and go with Vucevic this season, but again, it's not through what the traditional, what everyone talks about, like play through the triangle and slow down the game and give it to him in the post and him draw the double team and he kicks it back out. Like, I understand why people think that works, because we've seen that so long in this game where it's like that was like the most effective way to actually get ball penetration and such. But the game's evolved, right? The game has evolved to the point now where we can't be slowing down the offense. We can't be slowing down this team's pace for post-ups, right? I actually think, honestly, it's gonna sound crazy, but if there's any person that should be posting up this season, it should be DeMar DeRozan, because if you post up the center, that leaves the shot blocker, the center at the basket, right? That clogs the lane. If you actually post up DeMar DeRozan, though, that's not a shot blocker who's guarding him typically. That actually opens up the lane, and then Vucevic's man gets out of the paint, right? That's what we want to see more. We want to see better ability to drive, and I think posting up Vucevic does the opposite of that. It just kind of flips it around. So we have a lot to kind of look into of what was said in this Bulls Media Day. What's the last time you streamed? I wasn't in college. I'm in college. Oh, wow. First off, congrats, Slay. I'm sure that the college life is a little bit rough. As I just went through college, I just graduated, so I wish you nothing but the best, and just continue doing your work. Yeah, I mean, passing out the top of the D to passing out the top of the D to Zach and Kobe in split actions at back. Yeah, okay, I understand what you're talking about. Yeah, there's any part in your mind where we should feed Vucevic if not, if he's hot that game? So if he's hot that game, in my opinion, the way you need to look at it is if he has a mismatch, then yeah, go ahead. But the biggest part about it is he has to get good post position first. A lot of the time it's like, oh, we got to give him the ball no matter what if he has the mismatch, and then he's posting up from like 16 feet out. I'm like, that's literally not effective, because I've showed you multiple times through videos that even if Vooch has a mismatch in the post, what they do is that they double team with his man that was, on someone else, right? They bring his man back over and double team, and then his man is back on him, and then the guy that was initially guarding him that was on the mismatch, right, he then goes back out. So in the end, it's not that effective. So what needs to happen is that he needs to go and get really good post position, so that when he has that mismatch and he catches that ball, he can just go up and finish, right? He can't be taking the 2 to 3 crab dribbles and letting the defense be able to rotate, and then it's all of a sudden it's too late. Then it's not an effective post up. It takes too long, and then for him to pass it back out, well, as I've said, the guys in today's league are too quick now, where it's like, oh, one pass cross court is going to be effective. Like, guys are too quick to adjust to it. So if he's going to be passing it, I want it to be like a touch pass. Like, it's just catch it, boom, and hopefully it's someone on the move and not necessarily always a guy that's standing at the 3-point line, right? Good to see that they know exactly what they need to improve. Hopefully we can improve. So yeah, this is, I think, a big thing that I was actually a little bit shocked to see, because there's a lot in here that I was like, okay, these guys actually understand what the issue is. Okay, I was happy to hear, at least specifically, like, AK can say whatever, because like I do think that AK does understand, like, okay, here are the issues, but it's on Billy to make sure that he understands we need to do some things different, and then him as a coach needs to figure things out. And Billy said a lot in this press conference that I thought was really interesting, because he brought up multiple parts that he thought were good from this team, and then what the parts he thought was bad. So, for example, Billy said that there are 4 things that he was kind of looking at, right? And the 2 issues that he saw this past season is that they did not get to the free throw line enough, and they did not get offensive rebounds enough, which to me, I 100% agree with the free throw line. Now, the offensive rebound thing to me is a little bit weird, because this team lacks size, and I feel like that's kind of something that, like, if you're a coach, then maybe this team shouldn't really be offensive rebounding, because we lack the size to do so, right? And I don't know how much that's going to play into, because what people have talked about with this Bulls defense last year is that the reason why I was ranked 5th was because the defense just got back. They didn't offensive rebound. We just got guys back. So I would hope that the offensive rebounding that he's hoping to have this upcoming season is not going to sacrifice the good defense that we saw last season. So point that out. Then he talked about the ways that we're going to get to the free throw line, and then we're going to get more offensive rebounds, is if we attack the paint more. And he talked about how he actually thinks that this team, in terms of efficiency, like the E field goal percentage that we call it, and then looking at just the overall points per game, that he was saying, like, well, we actually look okay, because Zach, DeRozan, and Vooch, they all had basically career years efficiency wise. And when you look at the actual, like, raw numbers, like when we pull up a Basketball Reference, right, it's kind of crazy to say, but remember when everyone's saying Zach LaVine was, like, inefficient to start the year, and then he turns in this sort of season, right? His true shooting percentage, if we go down to the where's the advanced, true shooting percentage is, I'm blanking, where the heck is it? It's here, right? Like, I mean, we're looking at a guy that's shooting over 60% on true shooting percentage, right? And then efficiency wise, he shot 48% from the field, which is, like, literally, that's fantastic for a perimeter guard. When we look at DeRozan, it's very similar in terms of his field goal percentage. He shot 50% from the field, and he shot 52% from efficiency field goal percentage, right? And then even his true shooting is close to 60% as well. And then with Nikola Vucevic, it's also very similar, right? And Vooch, in essence, he kind of had a pretty good year. Again, his efficiency field goal percentage was the highest of his career, right? But then you look at his true shooting percentage as well. This was also pretty high. So he was saying, like, well, how do we have these guys all having, in a quote, career years, and we have the 24th ranked offense? And he was saying, like, okay, it's not necessarily about us making shots, like, because he thinks that we can make shots at a very good rates, which I kind of agree with, right? And he also was saying it's not about the volume of shooting, specific shots. He was saying that we don't necessarily need to take or look to take more threes, but we need to adjust the ability to create better looks from the 3-point line. And this is the part that I'm like, look, man, I respect you a lot, Billy, in a sense that I do think that you have a really good basketball mind. I do kind of question your ability to actually coach an offense, but your defense is fantastic. I have to disagree with what he said, because in my opinion, actually, I think that this Bulls team last year, they actually created a lot of good 3-point looks from DeRozan, from Zach, from Vooch. Like, I actually think that they created a lot of 3-point looks, but what they did was the classic, what I call catch and think. We had guys, Patrick Williams, Alex Caruso, Ayo Dosunmu, others that were too hesitant to actually shoot the 3 ball when they had the open shot. So we're talking about like actual like shots being created from the 3-point line, but instead we're just seeing too many catch and think guys. We just see guys catch that ball, they're open for a good second, and then they decide not to do anything with it. They don't even decide to drive, they don't decide to pass it, they just kind of sit there and think about what they're going to do next. And that to me is like, it's not necessarily about you creating better shots, it's about the fact that you guys don't take enough. Like, if you just would take those shots, I honestly think we go from being bottom of the league into up to maybe like the middle of the pack here, maybe on the lower end, right? And that to me is the biggest issue, right? I do think that this team could still create better 3-point looks in general. I'm not disagreeing with that part, but I do think that they created a good amount of looks last year that were pretty solid, and instead just were not cashed in on because guys are too hesitant to shoot. So to me, it's more of a volume issue than what Billy's kind of saying. He's saying that we need to attack the paint more because that's going to create more efficient looks from the 3-point line. And I do think that the paint is also an issue with this team, as with the entire offense was an issue with this team last year. But to me, the bigger issue is the 3-point shot than it is the paint issue, because the Bulls were ranked 19th in the paint last year in terms of points per game. They were also not too good on drives as well, so Billy didn't mention that. But to me, to get those points in the paint, it's about those guys shooting the shots more on the perimeter. And even Javon Carter in his press conference said that the one thing that he noticed about this Bulls squad from playing them last year is that they're too hesitant to shoot the ball. They just have to shoot it. And he himself noticed that on the Milwaukee Bucks. Okay, so if Javon Carter is noticing that on the Milwaukee Bucks, then the entire league knows that, right? So they don't run out to shooters. Hence why the Bulls don't get enough paint points, because they don't have lanes to drive because guys aren't shooting the ball. So I disagree with Billy in terms of like, he thinks that it's not as much of a volume issue as more of like we need to create more better shots from the 3-point land. I disagree with that, but I do agree with that I do think that this team needs to be better in the paint, but to me, the 3-point issue is the bigger issue, so I would address that first. But that's just my opinion in the end. Let's see. I'm not saying like playing the paint, but I'm saying let Vooch have more touches at the top. The D with movement and cuts running split action with Carter, Zach, and Kobe and Vooch passing the cutters. I agree with that. Yeah. Defensive system they implement also limit their offensive rebound rate, especially with the control of the transition defense. No, 100%. Just as you said it. So the thing is that because that you don't really necessarily have like an athletic big on the floor. No offense to Vooch, but if you're gonna like, because if the teams that have like that like very mobile big, they can crash the boards but then also get back defensively. With Vooch, you want him back defensively so that you don't give up those types of like easy looks or easy transition opportunities. So to me, it's like I'm not really looking for them to offensive rebound. Like that to me doesn't really make much sense to me. I'm not looking to do that whatsoever this upcoming year. But if Billy thinks that this is a way, then you know what? Props to him. Let's see how it works. But to me, that's not what this team needs to worry about. This team needs to worry about making sure that they take better shots and take shots from the 3-point line, and not worrying about can they get their misses or not. I think listening to his prior quote and what AK said, they talked about decision making and taking 3-point shots. Yeah, he said on NBC that they kept driving away from threes, which is something he wants the team to move away. I would hope so. Yeah. And the offseason moves ease the catch and think problem. So I do think that specifically Javon Carter is going to help the catch and think, right? Javon Carter has in his career, like especially last year, he is not afraid to just launch that 3-point shot. I'm telling you right now, I made it in my Javon Carter video when he initially signed with the Bulls. when I was doing film breakdown in him, that like you're going to see transition threes from Javon Carter. He is gonna dribble that ball up, and there's gonna be maybe one guy back, and he's just gonna launch the 3-point shot from transition, right? This dude is not afraid to shoot the open 3-point shot whenever he gets it, and I'm all for it. I understand, Stacey King and many others are gonna be like, why did you shoot that? But to me, I'm all for that, because this team, if they're not gonna get the 3-point shots that they need in the half-court offense, then they need to get them in the transition offense. So that to me is going to be something I'm watching for Javon Carter. He is absolutely going to be shooting threes nonstop, in my opinion, especially if he starts. We'll see what the point guard position is going to be. I'm going to get to that in a little bit here, but it's going to be, to me, Javon Carter should be launching those threes if he's starting, especially in the starting unit. So yeah. I have a gut feeling that DeMar will show us that he can shoot the three at a decent pace. It would be interesting to see if DeMar actually does that, because we have seen DeMar DeRozan actually like try to actually take more, like add to his volume of 3-point shots. Sorry about that. So let's look at this for example. Okay, his career high was this 27-18 season in Toronto. Okay, where he averaged 23 points per game. So it's a little bit less in terms of like the points per game and that we're used to seeing. He averaged close to 4, let's just say 4, right? 31% shooting. That's not good, right? So it's kind of like, what's the balance with DeMar, right? I think with DeMar, it's more so, let's just look at example with this, right? He's had seasons, right, with this Bulls squad, or sorry, within his career, that he's averaging over 8 free throws per game, okay? And we saw that in the 2021-22 season, right, where he was in the MVP conversations, that he averaged close to 8 free throws per game. So last season, that dropped down to basically 7. And to me, if he can up this free throw average, then I'm less worried about his 3-point shots per game, in a sense, because that to me is going to be like, the add-on that we kind of need in terms of efficiency from DeMar, is if he can add more free throws. Now, what I would also like to see, because he averaged only 1.9 threes per game last year, and the same thing as the year prior in Chicago, I do think that we can raise this average closer to 3. Okay, like I do think that we can raise that average to a little bit closer to the 3.0 mark, because it's not going to necessarily drop off his efficiency to the point where we're like, oh, that's like terrible, right? And last year he shot 32%. Because of the amount of volume shots he takes, I'm okay with him like adding basically like another 3-point shot each game. And then the year prior, he averaged 35%. If he's shooting 35%, then I want him taking closer to 4 3-pointers per game. So I do think that he's going to add more, but I don't think it's going to be to the point where we're seeing him taking consistently 5 threes per game, as we see someone like, Zach takes like 7 threes per game, right? Which, by the way, I do think that Zach is going to be taking closer to 9 3-pointers per game this season than 7, like we've seen in the past 2 seasons. So it's not, in my opinion, the 3-point shot is not necessarily going to come from DeMar. It's going to be a lot more of the others, and DeMar is going to add just a little bit to what this Bulls squad needs to do for the 3-point line. In my opinion, the idea of playing DeMar in the post is interesting. I like to see it with the Vooch setting up Zach for a catch and shoot. Yeah, I mean, I think, like I said, I'm hesitant overall with the post idea, but if we're gonna have someone in the post, then it has to, in my opinion, be DeMar DeRozan, because his overall points per game, when we look at it, in terms of just his overall stats from there, it's pretty impressive, honestly, when you take in consideration, like, he is pretty much just like a perimeter player, right? Now, DeRozan in previous years, he's had like pretty solid post-up seasons. It's just that the game changes, right? So it's not like we can just consistently be like, yeah, we need you down the post. But in terms of points per possessions, he's up here when he has had the opportunity to post up. We're talking in the 97th percentile of a guy. He's averaging 1.33 points per possession in the post up. Like, if he continues at this rate of 1.33, like, that's better than Jokic's, which we know that's not sustainable, right? But we know that at least it's a little bit of a better, option of having him in the post compared to what I've been talking about consistently, that we don't need to put Nikola Vucevic in the post as much, okay? Vucevic, his 1.05 points per possession, this is a career high for him in terms of points per possession in the post, okay? This was a career high for him last year. and just kind of just go off like previous seasons with them. Okay, I don't even know where. Okay, so this was last season. Okay, this was, or sorry, this is the year prior. He averaged 0.87. Like, we're talking like this is like terrible in terms of post up percentile. So I if you just go through the seasons with him, like it's just the numbers just back up kind of what I'm saying. This is 1.01, right? And that's all right, but still 65th percentile. It's not like he's dominating. And even if we go back to like his like Magic days, right? This is him with the Magic, 0.82. He wasn't a dominant post-up player in Orlando. That was never the case. I think we just kind of saw it when the Bulls faced him for some reason, but he was never a dominant post-up player with the Magic. So I would really hesitate. I'm really hesitant on like posting up Vooch really entirely. But if it's DeRozan, I'm all for it, because what that's gonna do is that you have ball penetration with a guy that is not, who with DeRozan in a sense, his defender is not necessarily a shot blocker, right? So you have that guy that is kind of stuck in the middle of the floor, and then if for some reason the double team does come, right, then you don't have a shot blocker that's in position that is already to kind of go up and block a guy cutting, right? You instead have a guy that is more perimeter oriented to be kind of stuck down there, and then hopefully Vooch's man is like out on the perimeter, right? So I do think that would be more of an effective idea. I'm still a little bit hesitant because I do think that it slows the game down a little too much. Fourth quarter though, I'm all for it. I think fourth quarter, when the game slows down just in general, go do it. I'm all for it if it's fourth quarter situation, because I do think that will help DeMar save some energy and also be effective with the ball more, and not just solely relying on his dribbling ability to help create shots in the end. Would you rather have shooting the three or posting up more each game? Wait, what? Whoops, I meant, would you rather have Vooch post up or shoot the three more? Shoot the three more, 100%. Like, if I had to choose between the two, just shoot the three more easily. Like that, it's not even a discussion in my opinion. We look at Vooch's just kind of overall like just percentages. Like this season it was not great, but he shot 35% last year, and what was it, on 4.2 attempts? He's had, seasons where he's averaged more, right? 6 attempts, closer to 5 attempts. And it's not like he's the greatest shooter in the world, right? But it's still just, it adds more value to this team than if it's him posting up. Because I would much rather him just be shooting this instead of him taking a 12-foot fade away from the post, because the post up is the less efficient shot in the end. And I don't want him spending that time to slow the game down and also then just take that shot in the end. So this was his shot chart from last year, right? Let's go to his shooting from he's kind of like his big, I think this was his big year, if I'm not mistaken. Where is, no, this was this it? I'm trying to figure out if this was it. No, this was not the big year. This was his big year then. Yeah. So in his big like overall year, right? We're looking at, let's see, 3-pointers. I guess it's 333 attempts. What did he shoot last year actually? Because he did play every single game last year, so it might be a little bit skewed. So 352. So if he's shooting 35%ish, right, around 35%, then he's just going to add more value, because that's less shots for him to get more points, right? That's all we're looking at right now. Is if Vooch is going to be taking less shots, which he has in Chicago, then how can you maximize those shots, right? Three's more than 2. He's a pretty respectable 3-point shooter in general, right? It's not always, but in general. Oh no, it's 2020-21 is actually his big year. Let's look at this one then. So in this season, he shot 441 3-point attempts. Okay, this is 100% his career high in terms of field goals attempted in total from 3-point land, and he averages most amount of points per game. So to me, it's pretty simple, right? Just add more here, and I would also like to see him add more at the rim, but again, not via the post up. And I think we're looking pretty solid in the end when it comes to Vooch's overall production, because again, he's not taking as many shots. So then how can you maximize this? I've talked about this with Patrick Williams. I've talked about this with other role guys, that if you're not going to have that many shots, right, then you have to make sure that each shot you take is pretty efficient. because you're not going to be, getting 12, 13, 15 shots per game to kind of, play around with. So you need to make sure that if you're only getting 8 shots a game, then every single shot is at max value. Okay. So Patrick Williams, right? Patrick Williams is getting 8 shots. He got 8 shots a game last season. Okay. And he upped his 3-point attempts up to 3.4. This to me, like, if he is gonna be taking, let's just say he adds up to 9 shots per game this season. Okay. I genuinely do not care what else kind of happens, but this right here, this number needs to be above 4. Okay, 4. He has to take over 4. Ideally, in my opinion, he takes closer to 6. But if he's not going to get as many shots because he likes to kind of shoot this mid-range area a little bit too much, okay, then he needs to make sure that he's taking as many threes as possible. So same thing applies to Vooch. Same thing applies to everybody, honestly. But if you're DeRozan or Zach, you're taking more volume, so it's not going to matter as much, right? So as you can just look at this, right? I mean, the dude shoots basically better from 3-point range than he does from mid-range in general. So just take the 3. I don't want him shooting from this area because he clearly struggles. So just shoot the 3, and we're good. It won't matter really what happens then in the end. So this is just kind of stuff that I was like thinking as the press conference was happening. Other things that I was kind of interested to hear from. So I pointed out this already. So that's that. When we were listening to some of the players, okay, one of the questions that was asked to Zach, and this was more for when he was at the desk with Jason Goff, Kendall Gill, and Will Perdue. They've always talked about with Zach how each year he kind of adds something in the offseason when he's healthy, right? And so last offseason we talked about him, like he wasn't fully healthy. He was rehabbing, so he wasn't able to necessarily add something to his game. But then this season, this past offseason, he was 100% healthy. So what did he add? And he kind of talked about where he was kind of adding, like he was kind of saying like he's not like trying to add like to like every single aspect, because he talked about it's like a little incremental improvement if you do such a thing, but he wants to refine everything that he already does already. So that to me kind of speaks to like, well, we already know what kind of scorer you are, right? When we look at Zach, I mean the dude's already a extremely efficient scorer, and I mean we're talking about him. He averaged 27 points per game on 19 shots. Like, that's insane when you just stop and think about it. And that year he averaged over 50% from the field, which is again insane, and over 40% from 3-point line. So we know that he can obviously shoot the ball and finish with authority, and he is extremely efficient at doing so. But the next part that I think that he kind of hinted at what he wants to be able to do is, can he do some of this stuff with not kind of expending as much energy, right? Or can he do things a little bit easier in a sense, so that he doesn't have to wear himself out to kind of get these shots? And he then talked, when Will Perdue kind of asked him, hey, what's one thing that you saw last year that you want to 100% take care of this year and not have it be any sort of deficiency? And he said conditioning. So to me, this is huge, because with Zach, we've kind of seen with Zach that, especially in like those back-to-back nights, that he's still pretty effective, right? And he still scores pretty well, but you can kind of see maybe that like the 5th game, he doesn't have as much explosiveness as he did, in the 2nd game of the back-to-back, he doesn't have as much explosiveness as he did in the 1st game, right? So he talked about how Steph Curry is constantly moving. He's the best conditioned player possible. And I mean, I don't think it's kind of like, Zach has never come into any sort of training camp, overweight or anything like that, not prepared or not physically in shape or anything. But I think that he seriously worked on his conditioning this offseason, so that when it comes down to crunch time, when it comes to those back-to-back games, when it comes to having to actually play really heavy minutes, maybe there's a game where he really has to carry the workload of the offense, right? He's going to be hopefully working on able to do that consistently throughout the entire game, and not kind of going through these little spurts where we kind of saw last season where, he'd have like a great quarter and the next quarter maybe kind of fell off a little bit, right? So I think that's actually huge when you think about it, because Zach has talked about, when he first came into the league, he was extremely skinny and he had to add weight. Okay, he's added weight on. Obviously, he's much bigger now. But now he has to find that balance of like, okay, what's the right amount of weight, and then what's the right amount for me to help make sure my conditioning is always in a good spot. So I do think that this is huge for Zach, and we're hopefully going to be seeing him like work on or see the work that he did, where he's going to be able to score in a sense like easier, right? Well, what I mean by that is that he's going to be able to have like maybe better go-to moves or better setup moves for his guy, and then even just in general when he's working on his footwork with his 3-point shot, especially when he's moving, it's going to be a little bit better. But then add on top of that, he should be more even better conditioned, which I already think Zach's like a very conditioned player. But if he can add that part where it's like he's moving around constantly, like how Steph Curry is, right? That just makes him. He can then level up to that point where we're talking about him as being like the best scorers in the league. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this works out. Maybe he is expecting to be moving around a lot more on the offensive end this upcoming season, and looking to play a lot more downhill, and playing a lot more in transition than we did last year, so that his conditioning is hopefully going to be in a better spot for him to be doing that a lot more this upcoming season. So I thought that was a huge quote from him that you don't really hear that from some of these guys, honestly. You kind of just hear like, oh, I did my normal routine or whatever, and I was happy to hear that he said that. The AK ability say the team needs to give the young guys more opportunity, or am I tripping? So AK has kind of set the precedent that he needs the young guys to actually improve. Like, it's not about if they improve, it's you have to improve this year. You have to make more impact. What Billy kind of said was that he thinks that the team needs to be making quicker decisions, therefore it's going to help the younger guys not only get more opportunities, but then also them making the most out of their opportunities that they get, right? So I don't think Billy necessarily said that he thinks that the younger guys need more opportunities just in general, like, we're not going to be running plays for them, right? But what he did say is that if everybody, including the vets, if the vets move the ball with quick, decisive decisions, then the younger guys are going to get more opportunities, and then hopefully they're also quick and decisive, and they're able to maximize what they want with their opportunities, right? So I think that was kind of more of the lines of what he said, and not necessarily like, oh, well, we need to give Patrick Williams more shots or Kobe White more shots. Just that play better as a team, then the younger guys are going to have more opportunities if we just play with more pace and then making quicker decisions overall. So I think that's kind of what Billy was leading to. We'll see if that works out. I don't really know how that's going to work out personally, but I honestly think that there's some of the guys in this team, I think that they actually have gotten a significant amount of opportunities already, but they just didn't shoot the ball. Honestly, like, they just didn't take the shot, and I think that to me is the bigger issue, is take the shot, because you can't be afraid to take the shot right now. Shoot it, just shoot it. So just shoot it. I'm just gonna say that Zach will have a good year. I think Zach's gonna have a pretty good year. Some people actually, I've listened to some podcasts, they predict that he's gonna average like close to 27 points per game. I would hope to see that, honestly. I don't know if that's theoretically possible on this team, because there's a lot of mouths to feed, unfortunately, when it comes to this squad, and some of them may not be as efficient as others. But I do think that he's gonna average 26 plus. So that's my guess. Remember that Zach was averaging this season, where, remember, he had some knee issues. He was averaging over 26 points per game for a good amount of the season, and then the injury kind of started to haggle him. And then this past season, he started out slow, and then we saw him average over, or even close to, 28 points per game after the All-Star break, and that's with this current squad. So I do think that it could be possible he averages 27, but to me, he's going to be averaging 26 plus, somewhere around that area. And I think that he is going to be adding, he's going to be taking more threes. So we saw him take 7 the last 2 seasons. I think it's going to be closer to he's at least going to take 8, or average 8. Maybe it's a little bit closer to 9, honestly. And I think that these field goal attempts, I think they're going to stay relatively the same. Around 18, 19, it's gonna be around the same, because he's just that efficient that he can, if he just takes away a mid-range shot or two and add it to his 3-point attempts, the scoring is gonna go up. And I do think that his free throws per game also are gonna go up. He's average. This is kind of where he's been stuck at. It's at 5.6. I expect it to be 6 or more this upcoming season. So the points will be going up for Zach, in my opinion. Because I honestly think that's, if for everything that Billy has said, what AK has said, and what the players have said, of more pace, get more better ball penetration, shot profile, Zach is gonna help in every single part of that, every single part of it. So if this is what you're truly gonna be harping on, then Zach's here to help you, and in theory he should be averaging more points per game in the end. Theoretically, in terms of attempt rate, looking at Carter and Craig's average 3-point attempts and marginal improvement in young players, +2 and threes attempted, could we see this unit be 10th to 12th in 3-point attempts per game? Let me put it to you this way, okay? So let's go back to team stats here and just look at the overall kind of what we're looking at, because you bring up a good idea, I'll say that. So 3-point attempts per game, the Golden State Warriors, they average the most. They're at 43.2. Boston, we got guys in the 40s or above with these 4 teams, okay? Then you have the teams that are in the 37 range, okay? It then drops down to the 35, 34s, okay? And we're still kind of in the 34 range up to here. And then we're in the 33, 33s, the 32s, okay? So, in theory, right, you add Javon Carter, he's going to average like about 4-ish, right? Torrey Craig should average around 3-ish, 4-ish, right? I do think that this Bulls team should be getting over 30 attempts per game, especially if they're going to be playing faster, and making sure that they hopefully have guys not, catch and thinking, and instead of just launching threes at will, okay? Theoretically, I do think that they can get into the middle of the pack, okay? You said like 10th to 12th in three-pointers attempted per game. That is basically saying that you're putting up into this category, which is, I just don't think this is really possible. I do think that the Bulls can get to like the 33 mark, if things go pretty well. If things go drastically well, then maybe we see them get up into like the 34-35 range. But to me, I don't think that's going to be possible, unfortunately. So I think it's going to be closer to like around like 15, 16, 14-ish area, hopefully, if things go right. If this offense is the same as last year, we're going to be dead last again, right? But I'm expecting kind of like 15, 16, 17, 18-ish in terms of like, change. If there is a pretty significant change, and hopefully the additions help, and obviously better run offense, etc., I think that is possible. But 10 to 12, that's a little too high in my opinion. But I would like to see it personally. I think that would be fantastic. Yeah, I also like how Billy's going to focus on paint scoring. I hope this won't end up affecting our health too much. So I do think that paint scoring is important. Like I said, the Bulls struggled in the 3 most efficient categories in the NBA, which is paint scoring, free throws, and threes. Okay, they struggle in all 3 of them, which is hilarious to me. Like, just to show you that, like, you don't need to dominate in all 3. Like, for example, Boston, they dominate from 3-point land. They shoot threes at will, but they're down here in terms of points per game. Okay, that's fine. You just need to be good in at least one of these categories, in my opinion. And the Bulls suck in all 3. So, in essence, right, what Billy said is that they could actually, hopefully, get this team up into the top 10 in terms of points per game in the paint. That'd be great, because then I think that that's going to help a lot. But in my head, all I'm thinking about is that I don't know if you have the personnel to do so. And to me, the bigger issue is that your three-point attempts are so low that I don't think that this is feasible. So I would like to see this team average more points in the paint, definitely. And I do think that this team needs to get more downhill into the paint, 100%, because that's going to help with many things, including free throws. But I would hope that they're not just, excluding this part, because this, the part to me, is the bigger issue. So work on the paint, but don't forget about this. Don't sacrifice threes for paint looks, because that's gonna drive me insane if we're suddenly averaging 26 threes per game, but we're averaging like 55 points in the paint. Like, that's gonna be a little bit too hard. I hope that doesn't happen. You understand, I'm mainly saying the Bulls could theoretically get to 39 3-point attempts, plus Pat, Kobe take one more three, and Carter and Craig average the same attempts as their career. I think 39 is too high, unfortunately. So let's just take, for example, like, if we're going off what you said, you know, Kobe White take more, Patrick Williams take more. So Kobe last season, he took 4.6. Let's just say he adds, like, you know, let's just say it goes up to like 5.5, which I think that's possible. By the way, I have Kobe coming off the bench. I don't have him starting. That's just at least for now. I don't think he's gonna start. Patrick Williams in let's just go off his like kind of like rookie year in a sense to then this past season. So forget this year because this doesn't count. He went from 1.9 to 3.4. So you're basically averaging like a 3.5, right? So okay, we're up at about 2.5. Reminder, we're at 20. We start at 29. Okay, so what I just said here is, you know, we've put this team up to about 31. Okay, ish. Javon Carter and Torrey Craig, these guys are coming in, and it's not like, oh, we're adding 4 threes. Okay. By the way, Javon in his career is not that high. He's averaged about 3 in his career, but we've seen him a lot in the 2s, and this past year was his career high. I expect it to be around the same. I don't really see this being as like a significant jump, honestly. Maybe it is up to 5, but that's you have to take into account that Javon is replacing somebody that also shot 3s, right? Which we don't really have like a stat for because it's like a combination of players. So it's not like we're adding 4 threes. We're adding basically maybe a 3, maybe 2, maybe, right? It's not like, oh, we're adding 4 more threes here. It's we have to take into account who he's replacing, right? And because the guys he is replacing, they also average a certain amount of threes. So I would just say like Javon adds another 3 in a sense. Okay, so we're up to then about 32. And then Torrey Craig, because I do think that he shoots more than Derrick Jones Jr. and Javonte Green, the others that he would be in a sense replacing, that adds basically like another 3. So like I said, I'm looking at like 33 because what I just kind of did everything, you know, I'm expecting about 33, right? So 39 to me seems way too high. I if this Bulls team averages 39 threes per game, I'll be ecstatic, but I'll also be incredibly shocked because then that literally puts them like top 5 in terms of 3-point attempts per game. That to me is just not going to happen when you're DeMar DeRozan and Nikola Vucevic are 2 guys that want to shoot the mid-range more than the 3. So I just don't see that being a possibility. The only way that this, in my opinion, happens is if your volume guys, right, you change who your volume guys are, which is, in the sense, you would change out DeRozan for a 3-point shooter. You would change out Vucevic for a more volume 3-point shooter, right? And then you can get up into this area. But to me, again, we're going to be kind of in this area right here. It's going to be, I think this is where this team's going to land at the end of the season, and not necessarily jumping up into like a 39 3-point attempts per game. But if Patrick Williams takes a humongous leap or something, then yeah, that changes. But that requires him to take a humongous leap, which I'm not betting on personally. Yeah, that's just my overall opinion. So that's my main thoughts on the Bulls media day stuff. I think that there was a lot to kind of break down in terms of what Billy said, some of the stuff that what the players had said, and obviously AK and Mark obviously have been on air and have been on press conference saying like this is kind of the goal here. So this is, you know, AK came in and, you know, he said that he thinks that this team has the ability to do all these things, right, without making significant changes. So he's kind of saying that this is on Billy, and this is like his challenge to Billy Donovan, that I want you to do all these things this upcoming season, and let's see where the team can go. So I'm all for it, and I hope Billy can figure it out and actually, you know, put things to work, because I'm still pretty skeptical, unfortunately, about his offense. And so we're going to actually transition now into what I want to do a little bit more of, which is talk about some plays that I think would be pretty significant differences to what we saw from this Bulls squad last year. And hopefully I would like to see that this team implement some of these plays that I'm gonna personally like draw up here. Sorry, hold on, I'm trying to pull up my clipboard thingy. And like, just so you know, I'm not a coach, okay? I'm not a person that like is, you know, a coach of any sort of team or anything, but I have watched the NBA now for, I think this is my 10th year of like full on watching it, so I do have a lot of like watching and just kind of looking at things. So I would hope that some of these things that I'm about to say actually like do come to light, but you know, it's hard, unfortunately, at the end of the day. Sorry, I'm trying to find this thing online, but it's a little hard for me to find this. What the heck? There we go. Let's see. There should be a way to board type, and then we do the basketball one. If there is another option. Okay, here we go. Yeah, I want to do the half court. So let's go through some plays here. Any moves you would like to see? I'm gonna guess this is before the deadline. Sorry, hold on. My chat's getting blocked here. Let's pop out the chat. Oh, by the deadline. Sorry. Sorry, I'm gonna restore chat here. If this Bulls team is gonna be what I think it is, okay, which I do think it's gonna be better, okay. If we go off of what the win predictability of this Bulls team was last year in terms of what we saw from the just the overall stats and like the analytics in a sense of you know, points per game, you know, overall possessions and the defense, etc. The win predictability for this team from last season was 44 wins. Okay, obviously the Bulls, they had 40, right? But you know, ball doesn't bounce their way. You know, some things happen, right? But the numbers say that this Bulls team actually should have won 44 games last season. Okay, my prediction for this season is that this Bulls team is going to be winning 46 games, and so if this Bulls team is on that pace, okay, of like around 46 wins, 45, 46 wins, I would like to see this Bulls team enter the luxury tax and make a move here, because this Bulls, as we know, Lonzo Ball, you know, he's out for the year. They applied for the disabled player exception, they got it, so that's an extra $10 million to kind of work with. So I would like to see this team go out, and it's going to be kind of dependent on what kind of happens here, because the two positions that are still kind of in question is that point guard and power forward spots, right? I wouldn't mind them going out and kind of getting a better solidified power forward that we know is going to be a little bit more effective consistently, right? If Patrick Williams isn't going to show up every single night and Torrey Craig is just kind of better off the bench, okay? It would be that, or we need to go out and get like a solidified point guard that we know is going to be kind of running the show a little bit better and also shooting consistently and playmaking more. That would be the two goals. Not because that's $10 million to kind of work with. That's kind of significant, because you kind of think about it, like that's like Alex Caruso type money. So that would be what I want. You would trade something, I don't know what. I know that we're not that great with picks right now, but I would be willing to kind of trade a pick here. And maybe one of the young guys too. Sorry, Dalen Terry, for that. But that would be kind of like my idea of like a trade deadline move. If we're going in the winning direction. If we're in the losing direction, I'd strip it all down. But you know, we know that things are going to be hard to do that. So let's talk about a couple of things here. Okay. I want to show you some plays that I have in my head that I do think is actually pretty solid, that would help this team a little bit better, just in the half court game, because obviously I think the biggest part to help this team be more efficient is getting out in transition. Okay, this team needs to run more. We need to not play as slow. It's not necessarily about the isolation. Okay, the Bulls didn't isolate a lot. It's about their pace. Their pace was I think ranked 24th or something in the league. It was bad. So it's, if you up the pace, you're going to see less slow play from this team throughout the game, and I think that's the most important part. But when it comes to half court sets, we need to look into specific plays that can help this team just be more efficient overall, and not have to rely on DeMar DeRozan's greatness, right? So one thing I'm gonna just kind of show you here. So I'm going off of let's see here. I'm trying to see what I can pull up here. Maybe I can just do Notepad, and then I'm gonna pull up Epic Pen as well here. So here's my starting lineup, just so you guys. Sorry, things are loading. My starting lineup here, okay, at least in my head, okay, the point guard in my head is Carter. Okay, we know that Levine is the shooting guard. Small forward is going to be DeRozan. Okay, for now I do have Patrick Williams as the power forward. Okay, so this is just to help you just know who's who on the screen, and then obviously Vucevic is the center. Okay, so we know that one is point guard, two is shooting guard, etc. What I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna show you a play that I think is gonna be pretty effective in using these pieces that we have. So the black guys here, the black pieces, these are the defenders. Okay, the red pieces are the Bulls. Okay, and it looks like my notepad went away. So again, here's kind of what's in my head here as a starting lineup. These are the guys that I would have at these positions. Okay, so here's the basketball, and what I'm gonna do for like the first play here is I'm actually just gonna have like, this isn't even like gonna involve Javon Carter too much. We're just gonna use his shooting as a valuable piece here. We're gonna run like a 3-man action here that I think would be effective between Levine, DeRozan, and Vucevic here. Okay, so I think a lot of us kind of know as we watch basketball, like this is a set that we call horn set. Okay, this is something that I think the Bulls can add a little bit more to their offense. We don't really see horn set with this team. It's very rare when it comes to this team. But right here, this is what I would like to see from this Bull squad. So DeRozan, because I do think that he is the best ball handler between the big three. I would like him to handle the basketball in this scenario. And what I would then do, okay, is I would have basically Zach and Vooch come up and be ready to kind of set screens here. Okay, if I can get this to work. Hold on. Crap, I don't remember how to actually do this sort of thing on this. Okay, we're using Epic Pen. Sorry, we're gonna use Epic Pen instead. That's not, that doesn't work. Let's use red here. Okay, so in this sort of scenario, we would have Vucevic come up, set the screen, and Zach come up and set the screen. Okay, I don't really honestly care which way DeRozan would kind of go here, but in my head, what would be an effective way is that DeRozan's going to come off of the screen and go Zach's way. Okay, so what this does, okay, is that if Zach takes this, or if DeRozan takes this way and brings his defender along with him, obviously, you know, his defender goes with them, right? The defense is most likely, it's not all the time, what's most likely going to happen is that you're going to see these guys, sorry, I don't know, trying to get out of my Epic Pen here. What you'll most likely see, let's just take DeRozan and Levine doing the action here. Okay, DeRozan goes this way. What most likely is going to happen is that these guys switch. Okay, so that you have then DeRozan's defender guarding Zach, and then Zach's defender going to DeRozan. That's like it's a very similar positional switch. Okay, that's normal. But then after this here, this is something that we actually kind of saw with the Bulls, what they did with Lowry, with Markkanen, is that if the screen was set for him, and Lowry would set the screen, in this case Zach sets the screen, right? Then what happens is that you then take the guy who set the screen and you take Vucevic as another screener, and then you have that guy who set the initial on-ball screen flare out. Okay, so what this does is that as the switch is happening between these two defenders here, then Zach is going to be on the move here, flaring out from the Vucevic screen. Okay, so then Zach is going to move all the way over to here, and now there's even more options available for this team on the floor. So let's just go ahead and just show you this, right? So this is what the action would look like. Zach flares out. Hopefully his man gets caught up on the screen. If his man gets caught up here, then ball goes to Zach for a 3, right? But let's say maybe this doesn't work out and Zach's not necessarily open. Okay, well then what you then can do is that you can then come up here and run the pick and roll between DeRozan and Vucevic, okay? And you can just go ahead and run this. As this is happening though, what I would like to see is either, I don't care which one it is, you have Zach come down here and set a screen for Patrick Williams to come on up here, or you flip it and you have Patrick Williams come up and set another flare screen for Zach LaVine to then go to the corner, okay? So I truly do not care which one it is, but doing one of these two actions as this is happening with the pick and roll between DeRozan and Vucevic, it just allows DeRozan a lot more room to operate, and then it most likely will help these guys get an open look from three-point land, okay? So we call this set, it's basically horn screen. This is horn set, right? It's horn screen flare, okay? As you know, you take the Zach LaVine screen, he then flares out, and then we can continue having him flare out, or we can have him come down and set a screen for Patrick Williams here as the action's happening. So like I said, it would be, let's just take it this way, where Zach sets the screen for Patrick Williams coming up. As this is all happening, DeRozan comes over with the ball, right? And suddenly now you have these two defenders, right? They're occupied with these guys over here. They're concerned, like, oh, this is happening, we have to pay attention to all this. Then this opens up all of this, right? The paint is now open. Instead of these guys just kind of standing around, because then these guys can come over and help, they're occupied between the two best shooters on the floor for the Bulls, right? They can't leave these guys, right? So go ahead and put this down here, and you know, DeRozan can go ahead and drive. He can then dump it off to Vucevic if necessary. If somehow this is guarded well, then you have Patrick Williams coming up, you can throw the ball over to him, right? Or, you know, Zach can come back up here and take the ball, and you do then another action with him. It just is an idea just to get the big three all in motion, and then after, you know, initial motion is used, you still have then guys on the weak side looking to create havoc, create opportunities, and making sure they occupy their defender, okay? We never saw anything like this run from the Bulls last season. There was nothing even close to it. I think they're like the one thing that was kind of close to it was what we saw. We saw this a little bit from this squad. Is that there was a horn set from this Bulls team, but it was too simple. So what the horn set is you would have Zach bring the ball up off the court, and then he would dump it off to DeMar DeRozan here at the elbow, and then you would have Vucevic come over and set a flare screen for Zach to come off of, right? And DeRozan would look over here. If he doesn't have it, then he ISOs. But what this does, what the issue is that you can kind of see what's kind of already happening here is that, yeah, you get the kind of ball penetration in a sense with DeRozan with the post up, but this is too simple of an action, because when this is all happening, then the four-man here can come on over and help, right? And so this isn't going to create too much of anything on this side of the floor. And then Vooch doesn't want to get into DeRozan's way, so he just kind of fades back up to here. When I would much rather have happen is that what I said before is, instead of having Zach come up and bring the ball up, and you have DeRozan just kind of post up in the high post, you just ignore the high post completely. You have the screen set by Zach here, right? DeRozan and his man come on off. I expect a switch to happen here. This then starts to open up the middle of the floor, right? You then have Vucevic come on over, sets a flare screen for Zach to come on out, right? And then as that happens, then Vooch can go into a pick and roll set and not just be standing out here at the 3-point line. And then Zach and Patrick Williams can kind of figure it out over here. Figure it out. I don't care which way it goes. Just do something back here, right? To just occupy these two defenders, right? That's what I think. This would just be like a really solid idea for this Bulls team to kind of use all three of their big three, right? Get them all in motion, and then hopefully open up the paint a little bit more, as Billy Donovan wants to have happen. Now, the other thing that I would like to see, and this is going to be kind of just like something that I have seen Billy Donovan run this play before. So I've talked about this I think in previous videos, but we just kind of have never really seen it used, which is, I just don't know why. Billy always interests me, because like there are times with Billy, like I feel like I kind of have an idea what he's gonna do, and then like it just all goes away because I'm just wrong. So one of the things that Billy ran in his time in OKC was he ran this Hawk set, and this is with the Russell Westbrook, Paul George, Carmelo Anthony trio. Okay, he ran this Hawk set that got all three of them involved and created a lot of off-ball movement to kind of get them all in like their spots, which is kind of where like you want everybody where they're comfortable with. And it had a little bit of a problem that like it was almost too readable sometimes. But the issue that Billy had is that this was the play that they ran every single time in the fourth, like every single possession in the fourth quarter. This was the play. Like they didn't do anything different to kind of help this team out, to like add a different play or just do something in general that just isn't what we've seen from OKC before. But I would kind of like to see this sort of play be implemented into this Bulls squad, because I think it gets all three of these guys in the big three kind of moving. So this play here, we call it Hawk set. So the main action that starts it all off is that Vooch sets a rip screen here for Zach to come on down. Okay. After this rip screen is set for Zach, Zach's going to go down into the middle here and continue going. And then you're going to see Vooch come on up here and set a screen for DeRozan to come off of towards the top of the key. Okay. So already you can kind of see that there's a lot of action between these three guys. As I said, Zach is gonna then, he goes down, and then this pick and roll kind of happens here. As all this is happening, okay, if for some reason they get a switch here, right? Let's just say that for some reason that Vooch's man gets switched on to DeRozan, then you can pretty much just ISO it, right? Isolate with DeRozan. I'm totally cool with it. And if you really want, you can throw it down to Vooch in the post. That would be my other option of it. I don't really want to see that happen as much, but you know what? It's okay. And what then happens after this is that Zach is going to be here, and you're going to see what we call floppy action, okay? And you see these two guys here. So this is in case of Carter and Patrick Williams. They set a double screen for Zach to come off of, okay? So pick and roll happened between these two guys, and then Zach comes off of this to the other side of the floor. So Zach started here, right? So like we have Zach start here, go through, and come all the way over here, okay? That's good. Get your best shooter moving around the defense to make them like, oh, where's Zach? Because we don't want to let Zach get an open 3-point shot. This itself, in my opinion, should help this team pretty substantially, because then you move Patrick Williams out of here, or like you just kind of move Zach up close to the top of the key and move these guys back over to the corner. He has a lot of room to operate, and hopefully then, at this point the Bulls can take advantage of something. But this is just kind of like an idea I've had in my head for a while. Like, why haven't I seen this? I've seen this play from you, Donovan, but we haven't seen it run with the Bulls. So I like to see it personally. I think this would kind of take advantage of every single person's strengths. Obviously, DeRozan with the ball, Vooch setting the screen, and Zach's 3-point shooting and movement. Makes a lot of sense, but it's on Billy to kind of like implement some of this into the offense. And I don't know why, but we've seen too many of like these simple little actions that don't really involve anything, and just is like, okay, DeRozan isolate, and then everyone just kind of figure it out, or we post up Vooch, and then it all just bogs down. So these are just kind of two plays that I think would be helpful for this Bull squad. But that's just overall in my opinion at the end of the day. So two plays just to kind of put in your head. Maybe we see them this year. I think that'd be really cool. How many wins do you think the Bulls get this year? So if you want to know my win prediction, so my win prediction is 46 wins. I think that the Bulls get to 46 wins this year. So this is, in the 2021-22 season, they got to 46, right? I think that the Bulls get back to 46. And I'm expecting 6 seed, 7 seed, around there. I don't really see this team going much higher than that, unfortunately. Maybe 5th seed if things kind of go right. Quick look at the I don't want to bring that up, sorry. Quick look at the Eastern Conference, just to look at some of the stuff here. Oh wait, I forget, we don't get the standings on. When we look at the Eastern Conference, okay, and we're gonna move from this talking about the Bulls, kind of where they finish, into the Drew Holiday stuff and kind of how this all got affected, right? We know that the Milwaukee Bucks, Boston Celtics, major deals, right? Obviously, with Damian Lillard going to Milwaukee, which I want to hear you guys' thoughts on that. Drew Holiday went to the Celtics, okay. where those are like the two teams that, in my opinion, like they both went up, okay, in terms of what we saw from them last year to now this upcoming season, okay. Philly, I don't know what they are right now. Like to me right now, Philly is like the big question mark, because I think that obviously, you know, within B, they're good, and the team that they have, like they're going to be better than the Bulls, but if they don't have James Harden and they can't figure out what they're going to do with James Harden, then I can see them actually going down. But that requires them to just basically kind of hold on to James Harden, not do anything with them. So I do expect a James Harden trade to kind of come in, and then we kind of have to assess what the Harden trade kind of does with the team. So again, Philly, I'm just kind of leaving as a question mark right now, but at the moment, right, I would have them ranked number 3. So like, honestly, this is kind of like how we saw the East play out last year, just record wise. This is my number 1, this is my number 2, this is my number 3. The Cavs and the Knicks, okay. With the Cavaliers, they added Max Strus, okay. That was kind of, I think, their one big move, if I'm not mistaken, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that's like, you know, they went up, like I'll just do like a green arrow for this, like they went up like a tiny bit, so they kind of improved. The New York Knicks, I don't think they did anything significant, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, but they're pretty much running back the same team, right? It's still Randall, it's still Quentin Grimes, RJ Barrett, Jalen Brunson, and Mitchell Robinson, right? And let me go double check this. So like, I don't really think the Knicks really did anything. That I'm just Dante DiVincenzo was their one move, right? But other than that, like, I don't see anything that I'm just like, yeah, that's like humongous. So yet again, I'm just like, okay, you got. If anything, I don't really know what the Knicks are going to be like, because we've seen that obviously that. Sometimes we thought the Knicks would be good or better, and then they fall off. So, to me, I'm just gonna go ahead and say that like they're just kind of equal ground, right? They're just kind of like, we'll see what they are, but like probably around the same area. The Brooklyn Nets are not gonna get to 45 wins this year if they continue with the same squad that they have. Okay, Brooklyn, you know, like half of this 45 wins was with the Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and them carrying the team, and then going on that ridiculously long win streak at the beginning of the year, right? They don't have that, right? And then if you look at the Brooklyn Nets, I forget exactly like they didn't have a very good record after the All-Star break, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if we can actually see that or not. Maybe we can actually. Hold on, let me see if I can look into this. Where is it? We're not, unfortunately, I don't think we're gonna be able to see it. Oh wait. So post All-Star break, they were 11-13. They were under 500. So I look, I think that team is pretty okay. I just think that they're pretty much like a 500 team. So like Brooklyn, yeah, they got into this spot, you know, of like the 6th seed because Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving. But to me, I don't see them getting close to. They're not gonna get 45 wins in my opinion. Of course, I'm gonna regret saying that. So to me, they're going down. The Miami Heat, they thought they were getting Damian Lillard, so they got rid of Gabe Vincent and Max Strus, 2 of their starters in the backcourt. I still think them losing PJ Tucker the previous year is significant. They didn't add anything, and I'm guessing they're just kind of hoping Tyler Hero does more. But I know Miami was in the finals, so like it's a little bit hard to kind of figure it out. But to me, they also went down. But I don't think they're going to be like, you know, under 500 or anything. But they're still, again, I think it's a little bit down. Then it comes to these teams right here. I think the Bulls are better than Atlanta personally, and like Atlanta, I have a serious issue with their defense. It makes no sense to me that they didn't do anything. They got rid of John Collins. That was their one move or whatever, I think. Or maybe they didn't even get rid of John Collins. I'm honestly blanking now. What did they do this offseason? Yeah, they got rid of John Collins. So I don't think they got any better. If anything, I think they got worse. So I thought this Bulls team was already better than Atlanta last season. I expect Atlanta to also be in a sense going down, or I guess you could just kind of say like it's equal. So I'll just say like, let's just say equal for now. Toronto lost Fred VanVleet. I think that's humongous. They signed Dennis Schroeder as his replacement. That doesn't help in my opinion. Their going down. So as you just kind of look here, okay, there are some teams that I have going down, kind of staying in a similar range. If you want to know my opinion, the Bulls are going up. Okay. The teams though that are going to be a bigger problem is these teams here: Indiana, Orlando, and then potentially Charlotte. But in my opinion, Charlotte's not going to be anywhere close. In my opinion, Detroit has like no chance. Even with Kate Cunningham coming back, they're just still a bad team. The Indiana, in my opinion, is 100% going up. Okay, so while some of these teams over here go down, I have Indiana going up. Washington's 100% going down, but Orlando's going up. Okay, so the balancing out is just kind of like, well, yeah, we have some teams that are probably going to be a lot worse in terms of like Brooklyn and Atlanta and then Toronto, but then you have Indiana and Orlando coming up. So I think that because of that, it's going to be a little bit hard to gauge. But because the Bulls, again, they had a kind of a win predictability of 44 wins last season, they added in Carter, okay, where they added in Javon Carter, they added in Torrey Craig, right? And I do think that obviously having Zach being fully healthy is going to help. So a healthy Zach LaVine. And I do think that one of either Kobe, Ayo, Patrick Williams, one of those guys, they're going to add at least just some sort of like significant impact. I don't think that it's going to necessarily be like starting for those guys and be like, you know, they're going to jump up into like a 16 point per game score or anything. But I do think that like you're either going to see, for example, like Kobe White becomes like a severe sniper from 3-point range, or Ayo Dosunmu becomes like one of the better defenders in the league, like close to like Alex Caruso type level, or Patrick Williams finally becomes the sniper that we think that he already is, just he shoots it more, or we see Patrick Williams at least kind of turn into what I would kind of hope to see Patrick Williams like turn into in general, which is he becomes Aaron Gordon type, where physical, average, you know, a pretty significant amount of points per game. And Aaron Gordon's not the 3-point shooter that Patrick Williams is, but we saw how significant Aaron Gordon was to the Denver Nuggets run, okay, for the championship, and even the year before that. It's like he just helps out a lot. So as you can see, his 3-point attempts and percentages are much lower than what I want Patrick Williams to have, but in essence, this is kind of what I want to see Patrick Williams kind of become. And if he takes that jump or something like that, then I think that this Bulls team is going to get to 46 wins. So to me, it's 46, 45 maybe. But then I would have the Bulls between basically kind of here in this area. And we don't really know what's going to happen after that. I think these four teams are 100% going to be better than the Bulls. We'll kind of see about New York, but I'm going to have New York probably slightly ahead of the Bulls right now. And then after that, I don't really know. Like, I don't think Miami is going to be a guaranteed, like, yeah, we're going to have an easy, like we're going to easily make our way into the playoffs, because while Miami, you know, in playoff time, they're very scary. Their regular season is a little bit concerning. And this has just been a consistent theme with them, unfortunately, where it's kind of like the regular season you don't really know. So Miami could, unfortunately, because of the play-in, right, they could somehow like be like a 9 or 10 seed like down here, and then they get eliminated because of the play-in tournament. So you never really know when it comes to this sort of stuff. But that's kind of where I see the Bulls playing out. I do think that it's most likely the Bulls end here at 46 wins. And unfortunately, we'll be playing probably Philly or Cleveland in the first round of the playoffs, which would suck because I don't think the Bulls win in any of those scenarios. So, best case scenario, I think honestly, like the most amount of wins this Bulls team can get this year would be 48. I think that would be like Patrick Williams takes like a ridiculous leap, plus some of like the best performances from some other guys, and maybe then the Bulls get like the 4 seed and they get home court advantage in the first round. But that's a big if, and that requires the other teams to also be worse. Just don't see it. So to me, again, it's between 5 and 8 ish area, and hopefully the Bulls improve. That's honestly what I'm just kind of hoping for with this Bulls squad. All right, let me hear your thoughts on Lillard to the Bucks and then Holiday to the Celtics, because these are two moves that I think are insane from from both these teams. I think personally that the Holiday deal is a little bit underwhelming in terms of the reaction from the fans. I think that the Holiday deal is a very significant move, and I think it's a fantastic move from Boston. Is going to really show how insane that move is in the end. Like I think Drew Holiday is severely underrated as a player, and I find it incredibly disappointing to see how many just in general Bulls fans don't know about Drew Holiday, because his impact is really, really significant. But your thoughts on both these deals, the Bucks and Celtics getting Lillard and then Holiday, because I have my own thoughts on it personally. Just say my thoughts on the Lillard thing. Obviously, I think Lillard and Giannis are the craziest dynamic duo in the league right now. So it's gonna be really interesting to see how those two really dominate this league. I think that there's gonna be a big question mark, and this is kind of like my biggest thing with Milwaukee right now, because like, obviously they improved. I mean, giving up Holiday does hurt, but they got, you know, arguably a top, or whatever player you want. I say top 10, you could say top 15 player in Lillard, right? The Lillard Giannis pick and roll is going to be so hard to guard that I don't even know how to even think about guarding it in the first place. But to me, the biggest kind of question marks right now for this Bucks team is like to be from like, you know, like a pretty good contender to being like maybe the favorite of the Eastern Conference. I don't know what I'm going to be getting from this man right here, okay? Because Chris Middleton, if you don't know what kind of happened with him last season, Middleton was out for a good amount of games. He didn't start the year healthy. I believe he had surgery, and then when he did come back, it wasn't like he was terrible. It's just that 15 points per game from him is not great, and he's coming into his age 32 season, where, you know, we've seen multiple seasons of him being an all-star, averaging, you know, 18, 20. 15 is not going to cut it. If Middleton's going to be that guy of, like, you know, back to Chris Middleton, then this Bucks team I think is 100% the favorites in the Eastern Conference, and I would have them, you know, probably going to the finals pretty easily. But if Middleton's not going to be what we want from Chris Middleton, then that's a big issue in my opinion, because then I think it really opens the door for Boston, with their now big four, if you want to call them, with Tatum, Brown, Porzingis, and Holiday. So this is going to be a really significant thing to kind of look at, to kind of see, you know, is Middleton where we think Chris Middleton is usually at, or is he below? Because that's going to, in my opinion, be like a big difference. Obviously with Giannis and Lillard, those two together are going to be fantastic. But I also am aware that having only two guys can only take you so far. You need that kind of extra guy, right, to really solidify that dynamic duo, as, you know, with that team as being like the top of the top. So Chris Middleton, I think it's going to be really interesting to watch here. Did we see an improvement in a close game situation with the Bulls? 19 close game losses is crazy. Oh, 100% football CF Candy. I mean, that 100%, I completely agree. And that's the reason why I think, because again, the Bulls' win predictability was 44 wins last year. And that's, you know, it's kind of crazy to think that we lost four more games than predicted. And that's because, you know, close game situation. So I do think it's to be better. Bucks are the best team in the league for me. I don't agree with the people saying Boston, especially with their lack of size and depth. So when you say lack of size and depth, what specifically are you worried about with it? Because to me, Boston's always played small, and they're always at the top of the Eastern Conference. So, like, to me, I don't really understand that argument in a sense. If anything, they got taller because Rob Williams is smaller than Kristaps Porzingis. So, explain to me that. Lillard to the Bucks is incredible. Drew to the Celtics is an obvious step up. I still have my breath for playoff performances. What do you mean, like, for who specifically, Marcos? Who specifically are we talking about for playoff performances? Are you talking about the Bucks? Because the Bucks have had some issues in the playoffs for sure. But yeah, Celtics team Porzingis remain healthy for playoff series and 60+ games. Based off last year, it's possible, but based on the career health, it's a massive risk. I don't think he needs to even play like 60 games. I think for the Bucks, I think he needs to, or sorry, for the Celtics, I think he needs to play like 55-ish games, honestly. Because, so I don't think the Celtics are done, by the way. I do think they're going to add some sort of big man. I don't know who it is. They added, I think, Wenyan Gabriel, who is not that terrible of a player, honestly. But this Celtics team, for some reason, like, you think that they're running out of size. Like, because if you remember last year, right, Robert Williams, he was injured for like a good portion of last season, right? Like, if you're saying like, well, the Celtics had more size last year, Robert Williams played 35 games last year. Like, it wasn't like he was healthy, right? So they basically just relied solely on Al Horford, right? And that got them through. So to me, it's not even like Porzingis needs to play 60 games. He needs to play like 55 games, in my opinion. And I think that's going to be a significant increase in what we saw from, obviously, Rob Williams, but just having that inside presence for basically more than half your season is a pretty significant thing. So again, the Celtics last season with Rob Williams playing 35 games and just relying only on Al Horford as their only big man, they got to what we saw last year in terms of wins. Okay, so to me, I don't think they necessarily need like Porzingis as like a fully healthy dude. I think it's around like 55 games they need Porzingis, and obviously in the playoffs you need them. So Drew Holiday. Okay, so yeah, Drew Holiday in the playoffs is definitely a little bit up and down. He's had his fantastic moments, like we saw with him with the New Orleans Pelicans. He was fantastic, but then also kind of even in the last year, like even last season, there was some performances that weren't too great, and then even in the run to the finals, we saw Drew Holiday. Like, he had an incredible Game 5, the Drew Holiday game, but then we saw him kind of we saw him have some issues. So that is definitely a bigger concern, yeah, for the Celtics. But my counter to that is that you're replacing Marcus Smart with Drew Holiday. I'm not saying Marcus Smart is like not important. He is very important, but I would argue that Drew Holiday is more consistent than Marcus Smart, because in my opinion, Marcus Smart would have some of the most ups and downs in the playoffs, unfortunately for him. So I think that Drew Holiday is going to help. Even if Drew Holiday is having a poor shooting game, what he brings to the table still is his playmaking that Marcus Smart can never bring. So yeah, Drew has to perform still, but I do think it's still an upgrade for the Celtics in terms of playoff performances that we've seen. Brown are the two who need to have consistent good play in the playoffs. I agree. I think Jaylen Brown is also a little bit up and down, but I do think that Brown is kind of gone into that tier where we kind of expect when we're going to be pretty consistent with them. I mean, he averaged 26 last year. This is a career high. The only thing that I unfortunately worry about with Jaylen Brown is his free throw percentage, because in the playoffs it's a little bit up and down. But yeah, he's gotten better at it, but he definitely still needs to continue to play at a more consistent level. Horford age and Porzingis health concerns are not being a natural shot blocker. Losing one in Rob Will in the league is getting bigger. Bucks matchup will be tough. Well, the thing is though, is that every time I hear like, well, who's going to guard Giannis and the Bucks matchup is going to be hard to guard, like, I don't think anybody can guard Giannis in the first place. Like, I think no matter what, the Milwaukee Bucks are one of the toughest teams in the league, and no one can guard Giannis, even if you have the best defender in the league to guard Giannis. So I understand what you're saying. It's like, well, who's going to guard Giannis? That's going to be tough. I'm like, well, okay, if I have Kawhi Leonard, for God's sake, like, I still think it's going to be one of the hardest things to guard in Giannis. So I get it, but at the same time, I'm just like, like, if I had, let's say, if I had Anthony Davis and Kawhi Leonard to guard Giannis Antetokounmpo, I still think it's an incredibly tough task to do, even if I had two of the best defenders to guard Giannis. So I get it, but it's kind of like, I also disagree with what you're kind of saying. If Horford is able to maintain production, then none of this matters. I just don't see, like, because here's the thing with Al Horford. Like Horford doesn't even need to score right now. Al Horford just needs to just kind of be this guy who averages like 10 and 8 or like whatever it is, 10 and 6, 10 and 7, right? Like, he just has to just be the guy out there on the floor just to kind of make sure that everyone's kind of stays together, right? Like, he doesn't even need to like be, you know, the old Al Horford where we saw him averaging like 15 and whatever. Like, he doesn't need to do that, like the all-star Al Horford, right? Like, he just has to just kind of be okay, and I think Boston's fine. Like, and Al Horford, I mean, most of the time he has been very, at least healthy enough to the point where he gets to like at least 60 plus games. So yeah, I do think that their depth is a little bit thin in terms of front court depth, but if we're relying on these two guys solely, I think they're gonna, if they're healthy, right, and even if Porzingis is like only half healthy for the season, I think they're fine. I honestly do. I think that they're gonna be really solid still, because we know Tatum and Brown are Tatum and Brown. They added in Holiday, who's also pretty solid. Holiday does have some injury concerns, I will say that, but I think Holiday recently has been pretty consistent. He's been all right in terms of his health. So yeah, they'll add another guy, I'm sure, in terms of the front court depth. But like I said, if Al Horford plays 65 games and Porzingis plays 55, I think they're totally fine. Very true to the playmaking that Drew brings, an aspect that the Celtics have not had with Tatum and Brown, and arguably has been the Nuggets thing they have. Has been the Nuggets thing that they have liked, especially in half-court sets. So yeah, Tatum and Brown, it's kind of like, it's almost like the Bulls issue, right? Where you have two wings that kind of, in a sense, dominate the ball. I don't really necessarily like that term for especially Zach, because Zach doesn't really dominate the ball. Like, his isolation percentage is pretty low. But he does need the ball, right? Striking him out. But we also know that Zach's pretty good off ball too. Tatum and Brown, these two guys, like, they really need the ball, right? They're pretty good catch and shoot guys, especially Tatum is, but like Brown is not, like, he really needs the ball. These two guys don't necessarily know how to play make, right? In terms of like a point guard type play make, right? Biggest. Okay, I see what you're saying. These two guys, like, they have playmaking abilities, but the thing is when you're guarded by that, you know, that small forward, it's just a different type of game, right? And their mentality has always just been score first. That's always been their mentality, and that to me is like, Marcus Smart was a pretty good guy, especially defensively, and he increases 3-point percentage and everything, but he never brought the playmaking. Like, he could set up the offense, but he can never ever penetrate the defense like a Drew Holiday can. So to me, what this does, this takes a lot of pressure off Tatum and Brown to kind of do everything, and they can just honestly just think about scoring right now. They just have to like be like, okay, score. I get the ball, I go score. Drew Holiday is going to help set me up for better places to score and have easier baskets throughout the game so I can score. That's great. And I just think that makes it more dangerous, because if they're conserving energy and they're finding more ways to get buckets, it's already hard to guard them. Now we just made it even harder. So I truly do think that the Holiday pickup is extremely impactful, and I don't think enough people are giving him credit for that pickup, which I do think it's a little bit of a tragedy that some people aren't really recognizing. Like, Drew Holiday is a very impactful player, which leads me to my next segment about, I wanted the Bulls all in on Drew Holiday. I was like all in on it. I was full on dead set. Like, I wanted the Bulls to go after Drew Holiday like badly, because I do think that he would have significantly helped this team, even with this team that has a bunch of flaws, right? I think that Drew Holiday could have made this team like a solidified like 48 win team, hopefully then closer to 50, because he's that good. But you know, that's for wishful thinking, unfortunately. Let's transition to this topic, okay? Because I wanted to talk to you guys about this very topic. I sent out this poll when the Damian Lillard trade went down. Okay, Drew Holiday was traded to Portland, and a lot of people were thinking, well, Drew Holiday is now suddenly available because obviously Portland's not going to keep Drew Holiday. I sent out this poll: would you trade Patrick Williams, Lonzo Ball, and the first round pick for Drew Holiday? Okay. Now, here's the thing: I already knew that this was not going to be enough to get Drew Holiday. Like, I already knew. Like, Patrick Williams, Lonzo Ball, and a first round pick is not enough to get Drew Holiday. I understand why some people would think that is, but this to me is like, it's not enough. Like, I don't know why some people even are like saying like, oh yeah, I mean, like, I think Portland should accept that, but we're giving up too much. This is nowhere near enough. Okay, even if you just look at what Drew Holiday was traded for, okay, like this comes nowhere close, okay. The actual trade that would have had to have happened for the Bulls to actually go and get Drew Holiday, okay. I go off Fanspo, by the way. ESPN Trade Machine's a little awkward. So are they updated? Okay, they are updated. Pretend this is Portland. This is not the Celtics. This is just Portland. Okay. So you'd have to trade Lonzo Ball just to match the contract. Okay. You'd have to trade Patrick Williams because obviously, you know, Patrick Williams would be like the centerpiece of the deal, and Portland's in the rebuild. Okay. You'd also probably have to trade Alex Caruso. Probably. Okay. Now, if you're wondering about some of these other guys, okay, like some people were saying, like I throw in Io. Io can't be traded till January 15th. Okay, he's not available. All right, he's not available for trade. I don't know why people still don't understand this rule, but like he just signed a new deal. If you just signed a new deal, you can't be traded. Okay, Io not available for trade. Kobe White not available for trade. If you're wondering about Javon Carter, he's also not available for trade, obviously. So these guys that like could help fill the salary or be like kind of key parts in the deal are not available to trade. Okay. The other person you could trade is Dalen Terry, which I'd also be willing to trade, by the way, if that had to be the case. But you know, it's a little hard to do. This is a little bit harder to kind of look at because this is the Celtics and they're past the second tax apron and stuff like that. So the money wise, basically just like, because if I hit this, it's gonna stay unsuccessful, right? Because the Celtics are already they're so far in the luxury tax. But this would have worked if it was Portland, because Portland still has some room for the luxury tax, and then the money, what I think it would have matched. If not, then you take out Dalen Terry, and then this right here 100% would have worked in terms of money. This still fails, unfortunately, for Portland because the new rules of, or sorry, for the Celtics because the new rules of the CBA. But for Portland, it wouldn't apply to them, so they would have 100% been able to do it. But this to me would have been the trade of you get Drew Holiday, you trade Patrick Williams, and you'd have to unfortunately give up Caruso. And on top of that, okay, the Bulls would have to the next pick that they can trade is 2027, and then they'd have to also trade 2029. Okay. Oh wait, is that correct? I'm trying to. Yeah. That would be the trade. So this would be the trade, in my opinion, of what the Bulls would actually have to give up for Drew Holiday. Okay. I already know a lot of people are just like, that's way too much. Okay. Now, the part that I have an issue with is like, okay, if you think that's too much, that's fine. Okay. But then what you can't go on and do is, what you can't go on and do is start saying like, well, the Bulls could have beat the Celtics offer. Okay. Because this is, and look, Bloody Horns, he's interesting. I don't know what's up with some of his thinking. Like he kind of has some thoughts that I just completely disagree with. But he goes on to say like, God dang it, the Bulls couldn't outbid that. Okay. And all I have to ask you is, look, I understand that Malcolm Brogdon is injury prone and he's old and he's gonna get traded immediately. And then Rob Williams, you know, he's a pretty solid player. Like I think that's something to keep in mind. Between Patrick Williams and Robert Williams, right now, who has the most value? And this is like a legit question I want you to think about right now, because there's a lot more at play than just their potential. Okay. The Portland Trailblazers, they're in full out they're in rebuild mode, right? Like, so they want young players. And if you look at Robert Williams, okay, he's 25, I believe. Yeah, 25, close to 26. Okay, here's his stats. Okay, big thing is that we know that he is a legitimate shot blocker. He is one of the best rim protectors when healthy. Okay. He also is a pretty significant rebounder for a guy that is not as big. He's 6'9", and he averages about 8 points per game. Okay. We then go over to here. Okay. And Patrick Williams is the other guy that we're kind of looking at here. And he averaged 10 points per game last season. He's going to go to his 4th year. He's a good 3-point shooter. But that's honestly it. He's a pretty good defender. We know that. Okay. So you're probably like, okay, well, Patrick Williams has the most potential, so that probably means that Portland's going to want him, which I do agree that Patrick Williams has the more potential. Okay. Now, if you ask me who's the better player that, like, between the two of them right now, currently, who is the better player between these two guys? To me, it's very clearly Robert Williams. Robert Williams, to me, is the very clearly better player between Patrick Williams and him. Because he is, like, a solidified rim protector and, like, is solidifying his role. With Patrick Williams, we're still kind of trying to figure it out, right? He doesn't score enough for me to be like, yeah, he's better. And his defense is solid, but we've also seen him that he's not, you know, consistently always bringing it every single night on the defensive end to the point where we're like, yeah, he is one of the best perimeter defenders in the league, right? We don't say that. Like, he's gotten to a really good point, but it's not at, like, what we talked about with Robert Williams and his rim protection type level, right? Not only that, the biggest thing, in my opinion, that I think Portland was turned off by with this, okay, if they were thinking about the Bulls, or they're considering it, is that Patrick Williams is in a contract year, okay? This is his last year under his rookie deal, and he is about to hit restricted free agency, and he needs to get paid. And I'm going to be very interested to see if the Bulls actually give him this contract, because they have, I think, until basically the season starts to get a contract extension out for him, which I think if you're Patrick Williams, you actually don't do it because you get more money if you just go in restricted free agency. But we'll see what happens with it. But for Portland's sake, right, they have to go ahead and pay this dude. He's in the last year of his deal. And yes, you get to keep his rights, but like last year of his deal. Robert Williams, he's under contract for 3 more years. He's on a cheap deal. You just got a rim protector, one of the best rim protectors in the league, on $11 million, $12 million, $13 million contract. Yeah, he's 25, but you already know what you're getting, and getting him for cheap. So in the end, I would actually argue for at least just his current time, right? Because of the circumstances between Patrick Williams' contract and Robert Williams is kind of like a solidified type of dude that we already know what he is, and he's on for the cheap in terms of his contract, okay? That if you're asking, like, okay, Patrick Williams, Robert Williams for Portland, you're going with Robert Williams, okay? So keep that in mind. Now, if you're wondering, like, okay, if that's the case, then what about the pick situation? Because I told you, like, well, the Bulls can throw in these 2 first-round picks. If you're wondering about this pick here, which is the Portland pick, this does not matter to Portland too much right now. Now, I can see this mattering more down the line, but as of right now, this does not matter. This is the Portland pick that we got in the Lauri Markkanen deal. It's protected 1 through 14. It's lottery protected all the way to 2028. If it does not convey, it turns to 2 second-round picks, I believe, or a second-round pick. I don't even know what it is at this point. But we could send this back to Portland, but this literally does not matter to Portland because they're going to suck. They're going to be in the lottery anyway. They're going to have their pick anyway. It does not matter, okay? The one thing that it does do to Portland, unfortunately, which I don't know how this is going to work out for them, but they don't have their picks. They're not going to be able to trade any of their picks from here on out, okay? This is the one issue that they have, is that they cannot trade any of their picks right now because of this whole thing with the Bulls, okay? Like, all their picks right now, they're all wrapped up, okay? So this doesn't show it. Sorry, I need this. As of right now, because of this whole thing, Portland cannot send out any of their picks. Okay, the closest that the next that they can send out is, I think it's actually 2029 because of this whole trade, but they can't send out any of these picks right here if they want to send any of them out. So that would be the only reason why they would want their pick back, but they're rebuilding. Like, I don't think they're gonna be trading any picks anytime soon, so it doesn't really make any sense. So the most that the Bulls can offer in terms of picks is 2, the same that was offered in this trade that the Boston Celtics gave up for Drew Holiday. So it doesn't even matter, okay? It's just 2 first-round picks versus 2 first-round picks. And on top of that, the Portland Trailblazers would then have to take on Lonzo's dead money. And I have said this consistently. I don't know why people think that you can just get rid of Lonzo's money and it just doesn't matter. Nobody wants Lonzo's money, okay? Like, it's not like Lonzo, you can just trade Lonzo and his salary doesn't count against the cap. like if you're Portland right now, like it's actually important for you to actually have salary cap space in this situation as you're rebuilding. Okay, now currently right now they don't have any salary cap space right now. This is because DeAndre Ayton is getting a massive contract and Jeremy Grant is also on a pretty massive deal. But I expect Jeremy Grant to get offloaded, and same with Malcolm Brogdon, and then they'll start getting salary cap space. But they don't want Lonzo. They don't want Lonzo's money at all. Like that is literally like a negative value to them. So yet again, I ask you, the Bulls can the Bulls outbid this? What was offered here? My answer is no, because Lonzo's dead money is literally negative value. I think Robert Williams is more valuable than Patrick Williams currently at this moment in time, right? I changed that stance when Patrick Williams is signed to a new contract, but Malcolm Brogdon and then Alex Caruso, it doesn't even matter at that point because Lonzo's money is such a big problem for them that this is not going to be worth it for Portland. If you want to know my whole opinion, I would have done this deal. Like I would have actually have pulled the trigger on this because I think that I don't know enough about Patrick Williams right now. Like I've watched him for now 3 seasons, and I'm still here wondering, like, is this dude gonna actually turn into the guy that we think, or are we just kind of stuck with a guy that's just gonna be a role player? Okay, I don't want to worry about that. I would also get rid of Lonzo's dead money, which I think is fantastic for this Bulls squad. If they're even able to just get Lonzo off the books, I think it would be fantastic. And while giving up Alex Caruso hurts, you got Javon Carter, so that's kind of like your replacement in a sense. And Drew Holiday, in my opinion, is arguably the best perimeter defender in the league. So it all makes sense in my opinion for this Bulls squad. Yes, you're getting rid of 2 first-round picks, but I'm honestly not worried about that. If the Bulls are all in on this team, you do this deal. So I would have done it personally. I'm shocked to see how many people said no, because to me, if this was all I had to give up for Drew Holiday, this is an instant yes. Instant yes from me. I don't know. I don't have to think twice about it, but this would be an instant yes for me if this was all I had to give up for Drew Holiday. So it's a little, it's just, I did this though just to kind of show you, like, I don't think Bulls fans have a really clear understanding, like, of what Patrick Williams' value is, because in my opinion, and I said this in my reply to this guy, Patrick Williams' value is much lower than we think. Like, we see the potential in this guy. We see it. I get it. But the problem is that we haven't really seen much of anything in his first 3 years. He's also in a contract year. And he's going to want some money because he started a lot of games. So that's not valuable to a lot of teams, especially because we haven't really seen anything from him. Like, if he was averaging 16 points per game, this is a different story. But I keep seeing people on Bulls Twitter, on my YouTube channel, or just discussions saying, like, I'm not trading Patrick Williams unless it's for a superstar. I'm sorry, but like right now, if the Bulls just traded Patrick Williams solely just him, they're not getting a superstar in return, let alone an all-star in return. They're not even getting anything close to that. They're just going to get a really solid role player, in my opinion, that's probably starting caliber. So again, Patrick Williams, he kind of controls this value in a sense, and obviously if he plays well, then I'm not looking to trade him. But right now, because of how many years he's in, he's no longer just 19 years old. He is still having issues in terms of his aggression, and while he is a solid defender, he's about to get paid, and that's not valuable to teams. So therefore, his value right now as a trade chip is low. So it's really not much of anything the Bulls can be like, yeah, I'll give up Patrick Williams for this guy. Like, that means nothing right now, because his value, unfortunately, in the end, is not that high. So your thoughts, please. Like, am I delusional? Am I not thinking correctly about all this? Because in my opinion, I think I'm making a pretty compelling argument that, like, the Bulls couldn't outbid the Celtics for Drew Holiday, and Patrick Williams' value is actually unfortunately lower than what people actually think. But your thoughts on it, I would like to hear your thoughts. But it's rough, man, because I do think that Drew Holiday could have really helped this team moving forward, and it would have been really nice to see him on this Bulls squad, even if, like, he's close to the end of his career, as he says. Man, they're a serviceable power forward on the roster. I do it. Like, I get it, but then, like, we're talking like all-star caliber point guard, all-star caliber shooting guard, all-star caliber small forward. I don't care who's that power forward. We have Torrey Craig, for God's sake. I'd run him, and then Vucevic at center. It sounds pretty good. I'm not saying it's championship caliber, and you're probably like wondering, like, well, why aren't you? If this is not championship caliber, then why would you do it? Like, it in my head, if I can get that Holiday Levine backcourt, then we're really moving places, and then we can figure it out from there. Because then at that point, I think that the Bulls, hopefully at that point, the ownership would go into the luxury tax, and then we can have more assets available for us to actually go out and kind of fill out the rest of the roster. Because even with then just sacrificing what we would sacrifice for the Holiday trade, we'd still have Kobe White, we'd still have Ayo Dosunmu, we still have Javon Carter, we still have Torrey Craig, we still have Andre Drummond. Like, that's still a pretty good bench, in my opinion. Like, it's not like the bench is suddenly just depleted all of a sudden if we made that trade. Like, yeah, we get rid of Patrick Williams, we get rid of Alex Caruso, which would suck, but I'm still seeing like a pretty serviceable bench. It's not like this team is like suddenly like dead in the water on the bench, right? And guys sign for the minimum when they see a team that is really winning. So I would personally think it'd be perfectly fine to do it. Man, I'm just delusional, hoping that Pat Williams is going to take that next step. I still don't want to trade him. I get it. And look, you're not the only one, Marcos, that has that same sort of mentality. And like, I don't blame you for it. All I'm saying is that we're now getting to the point now where like, it's not just about he has potential and that he's here for the cheap now. Like, Patrick Williams, if you do not know, he is on his way to getting paid $20 million a year. He is on his way for a 5-year, $100 million contract, because that's gonna be what the value is for him, for a guy like him. Okay, I don't know if you know this, but Keith Smith said this about Patrick Williams. Like he put out this tweet about Patrick Williams saying that like he thinks like a 5-year, $100 million contract extension is worth it, and honestly, he's not wrong. Like, because of how much the salary cap has gone up, and then if Patrick Williams is still a starting caliber player who shoots 40% from 3-point range, but even though he's still not really becoming that much of like much of a scorer, just for him, his defense and his pretty good shooting, he would become like a $100 million player over 5 years. So my thing is like, is that really worth the investment for the Bulls if this is what the guy is, right? Because if you think about it, right, we gave it $20 million per year to Lonzo Ball, and I would argue that Lonzo Ball brought a lot more than just 3-point shooting and solid defense. He also brought the transition game, which I think is one of the best in the league, right? So it's just something to kind of think about. And yes, I understand at the time the salary cap is lower, so I'm just pointing this out here that this is kind of what's going on, and the Bulls might have to make a decision soon. Because if Patrick Williams gets off to a start this year where he's still averaging around 9 points per game and isn't shooting enough, like, are the Bulls gonna be willing to pay him? Because then I'm at the point that I'm not willing to pay him. Because like right now I'm willing to pay him this money, but if he gets off to another start where he's fully healthy, he still can't find his aggression for some whatever reason, then I'm just sitting here like, I would much rather trade him, because I don't want to then pay him at that point. So like, this to me is something that's gonna be on the line this upcoming season, because we have DeMar DeRozan's extension on the line, which I honestly don't know what's gonna happen with that. We'll figure it out. But then Patrick Williams to me is the bigger thing that we have to get an answer to. And this season's going to give us an answer. Is he worth $100 million? $20 million a year? Because his agent and him are going to be fighting for this. And I think the Bulls, as of right now, they're going to have to pay it. If you want to know about the Bulls' finances for the upcoming seasons, I mean, we're not in a great position, honestly. This is for this year, 2024-25. Here's what we're looking at, okay? Practical cap space, this is not, again, this is if we just release everybody, okay? So that means we release DeMar DeRozan, we bring back nobody else, right? Don't worry about this. I honestly don't know why these two things are still here. It makes no sense to me. Why Patrick Beverley and Matt Thomas are still here. I don't get it. But like I said, I mean, we'd have the money for both these guys to come on back, right? Like, we'd have the money, but is it worth it? Another $20 million to a guy that I'm still kind of like, scratching my head, like, is it worth it? Because a lot of people are talking about how the Nikola Vucevic $20 million is like, that's pretty good. That's like kind of fair value for him. Okay, well, would you say that Nikola Vucevic is a better player than Patrick Williams right now? I would. and therefore, I would say that then Patrick Williams probably, maybe doesn't deserve $20 million, but because of his potential, we're all willing to pay it right now. So, it's just something to keep in mind. Obviously, the DeRozan extension is something we gotta look at, but it is what it is. Also, for next season, because I've been talking about this, how Levine's contract goes down every single year. It still does. I know this goes up technically, right here, but I think as of right now, if I'm not mistaken, they have the salary cap at 132. Or no, sorry, where is it? 142 actually, and I believe what is it this year? I don't think is it 130? 136. The salary cap went up by 10%, or basically 10 million this past season. So it says 142 for next season. I think it's be closer to 145, 146. So if that's the case, then Zach's contract still goes down every single year in terms of percentage of the cap, which would help the Bulls. Honestly, I would really hope that happens. But that also means more money for Patrick Williams and DeMar DeRozan, if that's the case. So yeah, just thoughts to keep in mind for this Bulls season, because there's a lot kind of on the line here. Not only are we trying to figure out this Bulls team can even just continue on this path, but contracts, man. I mean, Kobe White, congratulations to him, he deserves his contract. But DeRozan, new contract. Patrick Williams, new contract. Alex Caruso is also up for a contract extension, and we have to figure out if we're going to pay him, right? So just a lot to keep in mind for this season. There's a lot on the line, and because there's a lot of guys that are kind of up for a contract or on a contract year, I would hope that they ball out and see this team to its full potential, because then we need to take the next steps to get this team to hopefully contending level status, which I don't know how they're going to do it, but yeah, figure out what this team is in the first place. So stuff to keep in mind for the Bulls this upcoming season. Let's see here. All right, I went for 2 hours actually. I'm proud of myself. If you do not know, I did have a surgery recently, so I'm kind of still kind of in the recovery phase of things. But I am happy to say that I'm going to be doing post game streams for every single Bulls, or as many Bulls basketball games as I can. I can't do every single day. Bulls content is going to be happening throughout the season. So be prepared for it in YouTube videos, via streams. Be on the lookout for it. I'm really looking forward to making the Bulls content with you guys, and then also just doing some stuff by myself. On Twitter, if you don't follow me on Twitter, here's my profile on Twitter. I'm always tweeting about the Bulls on Twitter, so go ahead, and if you have not already, give me a follow on Twitter. And we'll talk a little bit more about some other content ideas that I want to do with you guys. I have some pretty fun ideas kind of in store that I think that's gonna be really fun with you guys. So I appreciate everyone being here. Thank you for all coming out, and I haven't streamed in a little bit and just coming to the stream. I know it's also a Monday in the middle of the day, so I truly do appreciate you guys coming out and supporting me, talking and chatting with me about Bulls Media Day. It is kind of an exciting day as always for Media Day. It is a big day. And Bulls training camp starts tomorrow, so I honestly can't wait to see what we're going to hear from training camp. I know that a lot of reporters are heading out to Nashville for Bulls training camp, and I think we're going to get a lot of good stuff from them, and we're going to keep up with it. And then obviously for the Bulls, they actually start preseason is on Sunday. Sunday preseason, it is at 12 o'clock Central Time, and guess who we get to see immediately? The Giannis and Lillard Bucks. So I also know it's football day that day. But I do want to be doing a post-game stream on Sunday after this Bulls first preseason game. I know it's not going to be as exciting because the Stars aren't going to play as much, but it is still Bulls basketball, so be prepared for that. I believe their next game is the 12th, if I'm not mistaken, and it's first game at home. I'm going to have to go double check this actually, because I'm not entirely sure when the Bulls actually play next here. But let's see here. If I can get to their schedule, please. Sorry, hold on. Schedule. Yep, so it is the first day of preseason is the 8th. I know it's football day too, so if you can come and watch the stream, that'd be great. But I'm gonna be doing post game for that, and then we have 2 Nuggets games, the 12th and the 15th. We're gonna go up. We're gonna have Toronto on the 17th, and then I believe then Minnesota is Minnesota opening night. I'm trying to remember honestly. No, sorry. Oh, duh, regular season. So OKC's opening night for the Bulls, for their season. So yeah, we're gonna have a lot of content just to go through. We're gonna pay big attention to the offense for this Bulls squad through preseason, and then get prepared for the season. So I can't wait for the season to start. And before I end the stream with you guys, if you guys want to participate in this, you don't have to. I know a lot of you are, it's middle of the week and everything. I want to do this little fun thing with you guys on stream. I think it's called Hoops Grid. And I have not done a daily Hoops Grid for today, and I'm not exactly the greatest at it. But I want to go ahead and do this with you guys. And if you want to help out, that'd be great. If not, that's fine too. But I try to do my best with this, but it's really difficult, unfortunately. When you kind of sit down and think about it in the end. Let's see here. So we don't know how this works. It's basically like you need to match up each sort of variable. So for this, in this case, is that you have a player that played for the Celtics and the Lakers, right? And the idea is to try to get the lowest rarity score, or I think it's lowest rarity score, because that means that the player that you guessed isn't guessed as much. So for example, like one of the obvious examples would be like Rajon Rondo would be for this spot right here. But I'm gonna try to think of a player that like isn't as known, and the first player that just kind of randomly comes to my mind is Avery Bradley. So for example, 66.17%. That's pretty solid. Let's see here. Oh god, they're gonna really do all this stuff here. Like I hate that the 90s. I'm not as well versed in the 90s, but I could definitely do it here. Let's see here. So we're gonna do, I don't know. Let's just do this first. Let's see. Lakers Bulls here. Rondo, of course, comes to mind. That's always an option. There's Pau Gasol too. Just trying to think of a guy that isn't like as well known. Obviously Alex Caruso, Lonzo Ball, right? We can just continue on with all these names, but a guy that's not as commonly known. And I want to see. I'm just curious just to see this, just because. But Luol Deng, there we go. Okay, 4.4%. That's pretty good. I'm happy with that. I think we all know that Luol Deng got a massive contract with the Lakers. Lakers and Magic Johnson teammate. I unfortunately just don't know like some of like the end of the bench guys, but like one guy I know is just Byron Scott. Okay, yeah, he wasn't I guess as high. Top 30 in points in the season for the Celtics. We obviously know what the Bulls and one of Magic's teammates, but I'm trying to think of a guy that like again isn't as well known for each of these categories. Pat Bev, yeah, Pat Bev is also a good option. Let's see here. Top 30 in points in the season. So like I could put Jason Tatum here, for example, right? But like that's just kind of obvious. Unfortunately, this does kind of have to be like an all-star type player. I'll say Paul Pierce. Oh, there we go. 3.84. Okay, now a lot of people guess Paul Pierce. Okay. Bulls. So, I mean, we can put Jordan. We could put, Rose, Levine. This is actually gonna be tough for me because like I'm trying to think of like what's like the threshold of like 30 top 30 points per game. Because I'm not gonna use DeRozan or Zach, by the way, because like that's too easy. But like I just want to know in terms of kind of where this last year was. Points per game in terms of the regular season. I apologize if you hear my dog barking. So top 30 was LaMelo, at 23.3. Okay, so obviously DeRozan and Levine both were in the top 30, but 23 points per game. I'm for the Bulls. Oh god. I think a guy that just again isn't as well known that could kind of like fit in this category. Like, you know, again, Jordan Pippen. I get it. Oh, this is really tough for me, honestly. Like one of my like gut reactions is like, was Pau Gasol like top 30? See, he was. Look at that. Okay, that's a guy that's not as well known in the top 30 points per game in the season. So obviously Pau, when he was with the Bulls, he was pretty solid. Magic Johnson teammate, top 30 in points in the season. Oh god. Okay. Obviously, you can pick Kareem, James Worthy, right? One guy I want to see if this works is Bob McAdoo. Yes, got it. Okay, cool. Bob McAdoo was I think he was on the Lakers one time, and Bob McAdoo was a fantastic scorer, but he came off the bench with the Lakers, so there's that. So playing in the 90s. This is tough for me because I don't really know like 90s players, like the kind of like the end of bench players or just like role players for each of these teams. Like for example, if I go to the Bulls, I know a lot more obviously, but like let's just do like Bill Wennington, right? I could have probably done someone else, but like I think it's a good pick. But for the Celtics though. You guys want to help me out here? I'm trying to think. I do apologize. I don't know, man. I'm trying to think of just someone that's like kind of like not as popular. Oh man, because we all know like the Celtics, you know, like late 80s was like so good. I could always just like put Bird or whatever, but oh god, the tiny, oh wait, is it? Did he play for the Celtics at this point? No, he didn't. Crap. All right, I'm pretty sure Kevin McHale did. Let's just go with him. Yeah, and then for Magic Johnson, just some random teammate in the 90s for him. Oh god, what's his name? Sam Perkins. Let's just do that. Okay, look at that. Honestly, not too bad. 35.5 is pretty solid, and my score is better than 68. Like that's better than half of the hoops grid score. So yeah, that's honestly pretty solid. Did Michael Cooper play in the 90s for Magic's teammate? Ooh, that's actually a good check that. Michael Cooper, man. Yeah, I tell you, like I'm always trying to work on my basketball history, but like I'm never like perfect, unfortunately. Michael Cooper did. He just barely did. He played in 1990 with Magic. That would have been a really good one, Marcos. That'd be a fantastic one for Magic's teammate in the 90s. But yeah, I'm actually pretty happy with the score. I'm happy that each one was like under 10% because I when I usually play this, I don't typically do too well on it, unfortunately. But yeah, that's that. But that's gonna be the end of the stream, guys. I do appreciate you guys coming out again one more time. Just saying thank you guys for the support. The goal is, like I said, post game streams as much as I can, probably most of the games, and continue to do content here on YouTube. one thing, if you guys could help me out, if you like, this would be like a true helpful thing for me. I'm almost at 1,000 subscribers. I'm at 805. If we can get to 1,000 as soon as possible, that'd be awesome. That kind of helps me just be able to do this a little bit more often. If you don't know, I don't get paid at all to do any of this right now. So if I can get to 1,000 though, then I'm actually able to get paid for some of the stuff I do on here. So that'd be fantastic. It just helped me. And I don't ever want to ask for money from you guys. I don't ever want to ask for any sort of donations. But if you do want to support me and cannot donate, then like this would be the best way to support me. It's just help me get up my subscriber count, because that would truly help me out and help me just do this more sustainably. But in the end, though, I do appreciate everybody for supporting me and building a good community, and I'm really looking forward to this Bulls season with you guys, as hopefully this Bulls team doesn't let us down this season, and we're not going nuts like we are with every other single Chicago sports team right now that is just disappointing all of us. But that's gonna do it for me, guys. I do appreciate y'all coming out. Media day was today. Training camp starts tomorrow, and I'll probably see you guys in a video along this week. And if I don't see you then I'll see y'all in post game stream on Sunday. All right. Thank you guys again. I'll see you on the next one. Peace, y'all.